Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 6 of World Autism Acceptance Week. Today on the channel, I have Jamie Younquists. I have had her husband, Chad, on the show before. Chad runs a YouTube channel that basically discusses the life of their family and discusses their life with autism. Thank you so much for being here, Jamie.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So the first question I have is, how much did you know about autism before your son was diagnosed?
Our son was diagnosed when he was 3. So back in 2010, Max is now 14. And I had heard of autism by then. I think the autism numbers had risen. And so we knew about autism. And honestly, before he was even officially diagnosed, we had kind of done our due diligence and kind of our own research, just because we as parents, we knew something was going on, and not that we were comparing him to our older daughter, at her age or, at her milestones, but we knew that there was something going on. And so we had done a little bit of research prior to the official diagnosis, just to educate ourselves a little bit and kind of see what we might be getting into and what might be going on with Max at such a young age.
Sure, yeah. It is really important to do research with a condition that you suspect is going on, so that like able to connect the dots, so to speak, and get a more confident result. So yeah, I absolutely like that strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a little bit careful with the research, though, because there's so much out there, and you could go into a rabbit hole and completely freak yourself out, when you research and you type something into the internet. But I think, just being smart about it. And that's what we were trying to do, was just gain a little bit of information before we, sat in front of a doctor. So.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely important to sort out the misinformation.
For sure.
Because I have seen misinformed articles. So definitely. Did you need to change any strategies for how you took care of Max after his diagnosis?
No. The diagnosis was really a formality for us. Max is Max. The diagnosis does not define him. And while the diagnosis was helpful because he was entering the school system, our district has a developmental preschool that he was able to get right in at age 3, which we were super grateful for. And having that diagnosis just helped get him the support and the services that he needed once he entered the school system. And so the diagnosis was sheerly just for support purposes, but it didn't change how we parented him. We still did what we were doing, prior to, and every kid is so different that we had to navigate day to day. And just as his needs changed and whatnot, we just, we did our best parenting him, diagnosis or not. So like I said, the diagnosis was for education purposes, and so that he could qualify for the services that would help him be successful in school.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the benefits of a professional diagnosis, because with a personal diagnosis, you're not necessarily able to get those necessary accommodations. And I'm really glad that you did continue to parent the exact same. I assume that that's what my parents did. I don't remember a whole lot pre-diagnosis with my life, but not a whole lot changed. That's good.
Yeah, we actually had some people during that time when we were pursuing a diagnosis. Some people challenged us, and they're like, well, if you know something's going on and maybe there's some delays and whatnot, why push a diagnosis? And some people kind of challenged us on that. But like I said, we wanted him to get the support and the services that he needed once he got into the school system, and it is definitely has helped. But like I said, the diagnosis does not define him. So it was just for support.
Totally. So personally, I think you two are amazing parents.
Thank you.
Yeah, but unfortunately, a lot of comments on Chad's videos are against your strategies. How do you respond to this criticism, and how do you not let it affect you?
Great question. It's hard. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, right? But then when you put your life kind of out there for everyone to see, there's going to be people who don't agree.
Yeah. Oh, the audio cut out. The audio cut out, I think.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Are we all right?
Yes, everything's good. I don't know what happened.
No, that's okay. So like I said, once you kind of put your story and your life out on for everybody to see, then of course there's going to be people who disagree, and there's going to be people who make negative comments or challenge you, or call you terrible parents or whatever. But for Chad and I, we have to just kind of ignore the negativity, because we understand that it's going to happen. It's going to happen with anything when you put yourself out there, right? Because not everybody agrees on any one given subject. And so we just don't let it affect us. Chad has done a really great job at responding with kindness, and if there's clarification needed, then he'll do his best to clarify things. But thankfully, he's not the type who just gets all super defensive and offended and whatever. And some of the comments you just have to let him go and keep going, because a majority of the response has been very positive. And so that totally outweighs the negative. And if one person can benefit from the channel, one family, from one little tidbit, then it's worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do I have gotten similar comments, like as a substitute and as a student teacher. It's basically like teachers who are against my strategy because I do have an unusual strategy, but it does work. And I think like if it works, that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate Chad definitely being civil about this on the internet, because he definitely has more control over his tongue than I do. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And, yep. I mean, there's been some behind closed doors, responses, but no.
But I do think, like, as long as you know what works for you and you're confident with that, then the results don't mean much. That's Absolutely. My experience.
Well, yeah, and what works for one family might not work for another, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what works for us might not work for the family down the street, and that's all right.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure you've had the same experience. Like as you're during your few years as a teacher, it takes a few months, like close to winter break, before you figure out like a full strategy for the whole classroom, because it just takes a long out.
Yeah, so, for sure. Yep.
Do you believe that Chad creating a public YouTube channel that has the whole family involved has changed the 4 years relationship, either positive or negative?
I don't think it's changed our relationship. If anything, it has brought Chad and Max closer together. It's given Chad and I and Macy a better understanding of Max, because I mean, you've seen the videos when he gets in front of the camera and Chad asks some questions. I mean, he has divulged information and answered questions like in a way that we're like, oh my gosh, we never knew that about you. And so if anything, it's brought the two of them closer together, but it's also given Chad and I and Macy a better understanding of Max and just how he processes and what he needs and what's going on in his brain. I mean, ever since he was little, I would watch him And sometimes I'd catch him like maybe staring off out a window, or, or if he was upset, and I just, so bad as his mom, like I just want to crawl inside his brain and know what he is thinking. Like I want to know what's going on inside of his head. And this video series and just their conversations, that's really all it is what Chad wants, is just conversations about life with autism. And now that he's 14 and he's willing to talk about it, like I'm getting a little glimpse of what's in there, because he's able to articulate it and he's able to talk about it. And it's crazy because it seems like the only time he will really talk about, his process and what's going on is when he's in front of the camera. And because there's times where, I've asked him, what are you thinking about? Or what just made you so upset or whatever. And he's just like, doesn't want to talk about it. And but yet when they've gotten in front of the camera and Chad's asked him some of those questions and they've had those conversations, I mean, he has shared with us just a crazy amount of information that has just given me that little bit inside of his brain. And it's been really fun to watch and be a part of.
That's so awesome. Yeah. I'm really glad that Chad's YouTube channel has been able to expose that. Definitely.
Yeah.
What is the main message of this YouTube channel?
The main message, I think, is just to support and help other families who are, living with autism. And like I said earlier, if one person can gain something from one of the episodes, then it's worth it. Totally. It's not to expose our son. It's not to say, oh, look at us, we're doing this and this, and, pat ourselves on the back. It's honestly to help other people. That's ultimately what we want. And Max does too. It's been neat when we read some of the comments, and a lot of those comments, if you read them, are directed towards Max and encouraging Max for his courage, or, for what maybe a response in one of the episodes. And so Max even is excited when he gets positive feedback, or when somebody says, oh, that was really interesting, or that helps me, maybe understand my own son or my cousin or whatever, like if it's really just to help and support. And like I said, if one person can gain something, then awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the reason why I created my channel as well. It's to figure out, to let everyone know what's going on inside my brain. And Max have different ways of getting that out, but we both get that out. And just every time I get a comment saying oh, this is so interesting, I didn't know that, or wow, thank you for sharing this, this made me emotional, that's why I created it.
Yeah.
So to
awesome.
to inform and inspire, and I think both me and Chad's channels are doing exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you encourage other families to make videos about their lives experiencing autism?
No. I think, there's mixed reviews on, putting your life out on the World Wide Web, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't necessarily encourage people oh, you should do that. If they feel led and they feel like, they're capable and they want to, then absolutely I would encourage them. But okay. I don't think, more people need to do it necessarily. I think we could all gain from, different families, it is a spectrum, right? So there's so many different strategies. There's different things you can be doing. And so if we can help each other and encourage each other and talk about the things that we're doing and that are working for our family or our child, then great, and if there's other families out there that are willing to put their strategies or put their life kind of out there, then awesome. But not everybody's wired that way either. I mean, I think we can definitely learn from each other and from the differences in just our ways of going about autism and like Max and you know how you said, like, you guys process differently or deal with things differently. I mean, we all do. And then
we're basically the same person, but yeah, we do things differently.
You kind of are. Yeah. So I guess yes and no to answer your question. You know,
Okay.
I think it's great when people want to share and want to help, but I don't think it's like a must, you know?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, and I think it's also important to like go off like how you feel and go with your gut feeling, because obviously with a journey like this, like when it's recorded, you have to be very careful and very like fragile and sensitive with this stuff, because one wrong move, things could go bad.
Totally.
So it's a huge responsibility.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. And if everyone is up to the task, then I totally understand. But even like just me talking as an independent adult, like there is a huge risk doing this. Like if I say something that's wrong, then I give the autistic community a bad rap, you know?
Right.
So there's a lot of responsibility.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, there is definitely some risk, but there's a lot of reward too, isn't there?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And as a statistician, you gotta know if the risk outweighs the reward.
Right. That's right.
Final question here. What are the main advantages and disadvantages of doing this? So like the top two or three of each. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely the advantages, like I said, have been Max just opening up and us kind of getting a glimpse of what's going on in his own head. It's really helped us parent him, honestly, just being able for him to process like, oh, when I get spooled up or I'm angry, you know, I need XYZ. And he had never told us that before. And that came out in one of their talks. And so that's been definitely an advantage, just us kind of gaining some understanding of Max and his brain and how he processes. And then also another advantage has just been the feedback that we've gotten that other families have benefited, you know, other parents. And so that's been really cool, because ultimately, I mean, it's what we want to do is we want to help others. And then I think another advantage is just creating a space for our family to just, you know, kind of connect, you know, shut everything else off and just have some of those conversations. I mean, Macy's been involved in some of them, and I think that that's just really neat to have those conversations, and however that looks within a family, you know, to just make time and be kind of deliberate about some conversation, and, you know, just without electronics and all of the things. So and then disadvantages, like I said, you know, just putting yourself out there, you set yourself up for negative comments and negative feedback and criticism and judgment and all of that. And so that is a disadvantage. And, you know, some people just strongly disagree with putting our son on camera. But like Chad says in every episode, he gets Max's permission, everything he puts out there. And obviously Max wouldn't sit down in front of a camera if he didn't want to. So they were very transparent with Max about what is said and done. So, but there's other people who still just disagree with it. So, but it comes with the territory.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, that's those are all the questions I had. So thank you very much for coming on, Jamie. I really appreciate your input, and I hope families watch this video and come to their own conclusions.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's great to see you.
You're very welcome, and good luck to Macy with the boutique shop.
I will tell her. Awesome. We'll keep you posted. Okay, talk to you soon.
Okay.